Maya stood in the bustling corridors of St. Luke's Hospital, her mind racing with the demands of her day. The fluorescent lights flickered softly above her as she navigated through the throngs of patients and medical staff, the rhythmic beeping of machines punctuating the air. As a nurse, she had grown accustomed to the chaos that defined her work environment, but today it felt different. The energy in the hospital was electric, charged with an unusual anticipation. She brushed a few loose strands of her hair behind her ear, adjusting her scrubs as she glanced at the clock on the wall. Her shift had just begun, but the weight of the day's responsibilities already pressed down on her shoulders. Maya had always been dedicated to her work, pouring her heart into every patient she cared for. It was her calling, a vocation that brought her immense satisfaction. Yet, deep within her, a flicker of longing remained. She had dreams, aspirations that extended beyond the hospital walls, but those thoughts were often overshadowed by the urgency of her duties. "Hey Maya, you got a minute?" called her colleague, Daniel, a fellow nurse with an easy smile and a knack for lightening the mood. He approached her with a clipboard in hand, his brow furrowed with concern. "Sure, what's up?" Maya replied, forcing a smile despite her racing thoughts. "We're short-staffed in the ER, and they need someone to help with the influx of patients. Can you cover for a bit?" Maya hesitated, glancing back at her station where a pile of paperwork awaited her attention. But before she could respond, Daniel added, "I know you're busy, but it's just for a couple of hours. You know how intense it gets in there." The urgency in his voice tugged at her heart. She nodded, her sense of duty outweighing her fatigue. "Okay, I'm on it." As she made her way to the ER, Maya felt the familiar rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The sight of patients in need, the sounds of medical instruments clanking, and the frantic energy of the healthcare team all blended into a symphony of chaos that she thrived in. But as she stepped into the emergency room, she couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was about to happen. The room was filled with the usual flurry of activity, nurses darting between beds, doctors issuing orders, and the air thick with the scent of antiseptic. Maya quickly fell into her rhythm, assessing patients and providing care, her hands moving with practiced efficiency. It was during this whirlwind of activity that her gaze fell upon a figure standing at the far end of the room. He was tall and imposing, his presence commanding the attention of everyone around him. The man was clad in a tailored suit, the fabric hugging his muscular frame, accentuating the intricate tattoos that peeked out from under his sleeves. His dark hair was slicked back, revealing sharp features that could only be described as dangerously handsome. His eyes, piercing and intense, seemed to scan the room with an air of authority, and for a moment Maya felt her breath catch in her throat. She shook her head, dismissing the unwelcome flutter in her stomach. He was just another visitor, likely here to see a patient, and she had no time to entertain distractions. Yet, despite her best efforts to ignore him, she found herself drawn to the man, captivated by the magnetic energy that surrounded him. Just as she was about to turn away, their eyes locked across the room. The world around them faded into a blur, and the chaotic sounds of the ER dulled to a whisper. In that moment, an undeniable connection sparked between them, a silent recognition that sent a shockwave through her body. Maya's heart raced, and she quickly averted her gaze, focusing on her duties. "Get it together, Maya," she muttered under her breath. She had no time for distractions, especially those that came in the form of a brooding Yakuza boss. Before she could lose herself in thought, a commotion erupted at the entrance of the ER. A gurney was wheeled in, and Maya instinctively fell into her role, her training kicking in as she rushed to assist. But as she did, she couldn't shake the feeling that the man from before was watching her, his intensity lingering even in the midst of chaos. Hours passed, and the whirlwind of patients gradually subsided. Maya found herself taking a moment to breathe, leaning against the nurse's station as she caught her breath. The adrenaline rush began to fade, and she allowed herself a brief moment of respite. That's when Daniel approached her again, a grin plastered on his face. "Hey, did you see that guy earlier? The one with the tattoos? Rumor has it he's some big shot in the Yakuza," he said, his voice laced with excitement. Maya rolled her eyes, brushing off the gossip. "Just a visitor, Daniel. We get all sorts of people in here."
"Yeah, but this guy is different. They say he's dangerous. You should have seen the way everyone reacted when he walked in. It was like a scene out of a movie," he continued, clearly captivated by the story. Maya chuckled, shaking her head. "You're exaggerating." "Am I? Just wait until you see him again. You'll know what I mean." Before she could respond, a nurse called for Maya's attention, pulling her back into the whirlwind of patient care. The rest of her shift passed in a blur, but the memory of the tattooed man lingered in her mind like an uninvited guest. As her shift finally came to an end, Maya stepped outside into the cool evening air, the sky painted in hues of orange and purple. She took a deep breath, savoring the transition from the chaos of the hospital to the relative calm of the streets. Yet, as she made her way to her car, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The thought made her skin prickle with unease, and she quickened her pace. Before she could reach her car, she heard a voice call out from behind her. "Excuse me?" Maya turned, her heart racing as she found herself face to face with the tattooed man. He stood there, an aura of confidence radiating from him, his dark eyes piercing through her. "Can I help you?" she asked, trying to sound composed even as her pulse quickened. "I'm Hiroshi," he said, his voice smooth and deep. "I wanted to thank you for your help today." Maya's brow furrowed in confusion. "Help? I don't think I saw you in the ER," he interrupted, stepping closer, the air between them thickening with unspoken tension. "You were incredible. You have a gift for caring for others." Maya felt her cheeks flush, caught off guard by his compliment. "It's just my job," she replied, trying to downplay the moment. "More than that," he insisted, his gaze unwavering. "You have a passion that's rare." She swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his words. "I appreciate that, but I really need to be going." Hiroshi stepped back, allowing a sliver of space between them. "I understand, but may I ask for your name?" "Maya," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maya," he repeated, letting her name linger in the air, almost as if he were testing it on his tongue. "I'll remember that." Before she could respond, he extended his hand, a gesture that felt both inviting and intimidating. Maya hesitated, unsure of what to do. Part of her wanted to take his hand, to feel the warmth of his skin against hers, but another part of her screamed to walk away. Before you skip, just remember, channels like this only survive if you hit subscribe. Otherwise, stories like this one just disappear. Her heart raced, battling against her instincts. She finally reached out, placing her hand in his. The moment their palms touched, a jolt of electricity surged through her, igniting something deep within her that she had long buried. "Thank you, Maya," he said softly, his voice low and filled with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "I hope to see you again." With that, he released her hand, and she felt an overwhelming sense of loss as he stepped back, the connection severed. "Goodbye, Hiroshi," she managed to say, her voice barely audible as she turned away, her mind racing with questions she couldn't articulate. As she climbed into her car, the encounter replayed in her mind, haunting her thoughts. Who was he really? What was his connection to the world she had dedicated herself to? Maya shook her head, trying to dismiss the whirlwind of emotions that had taken root within her. She was a nurse, committed to her patients and her career. This man, this Hiroshi, was a distraction she could not afford. But as she drove through the city streets, his image lingered in her mind, a tantalizing mystery that would not let her go. She had crossed paths with Anger, and though she didn't know it yet, this was just the beginning of a journey that would challenge everything she believed about love and loyalty.
Little did she know, the next time their worlds would collide, it would lead her into a realm of passion, peril, and a bond that would change her life forever. Maya's routine was a well-defined rhythm, a dance she had mastered over the years. The hospital served as her stage, where she donned the role of caregiver with unwavering commitment. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as she navigated the bustling corridors, her scrubs a stark contrast to the sterile white walls. Each patient she encountered was a story woven into the fabric of her day. She listened intently, her heart swelling with empathy as she provided comfort and care, a source of hope in their moments of vulnerability. But today it was different. The image of Hiroshi haunted her thoughts, an uninvited shadow that tugged at her concentration. She tried to push it away, focusing instead on the tasks at hand. Yet every time she turned a corner, she half expected to see him standing there, his intense gaze boring into her soul. "Get a grip, Maya," she whispered to herself, shaking her head as she entered the break room for her lunch. As she prepared her meal, her mind drifted back to their brief encounter. The way his eyes had locked onto hers, the electric pull that had sent a shiver down her spine. She recalled the tattoos that adorned his arms, intricate designs that spoke of a life far removed from her own. In her world, simplicity was key, but Hiroshi seemed to embody danger, intrigue, and a magnetic allure that was impossible to ignore. Before she could dwell on it too long, her phone buzzed, breaking her reverie. It was a message from her best friend, Tara, reminding her of their plans for the weekend. Maya responded absent-mindedly, barely registering the words as she replayed the moment in her mind. But I still didn't know who he really was. The thought lingered, igniting a curiosity that was both thrilling and terrifying. She finished her lunch, but the food felt tasteless, overshadowed by the questions swirling in her mind. What if their paths crossed again? What would she say? Would she even be able to look him in the eye without feeling that rush of heat? Her shift resumed, and she threw herself into her work, determined to push away any thoughts of Hiroshi. The hours passed, each tick of the clock a reminder that she had to stay focused. Yet, the moment she stepped into the emergency room later that afternoon, her heart raced as she spotted him again, this time in a more chaotic scene. Hiroshi stood by a gurney, his expression a mix of concern and authority. His presence commanded attention, and the atmosphere shifted as nurses and doctors moved around him with a sense of urgency. He was not just a visitor now, he was part of the unfolding drama, and Maya felt an inexplicable pull to him. As she approached, she could see that one of his associates, a man with a bandaged arm and pale complexion, had been injured. "We need to stabilize him," the attending physician shouted, and Maya instantly sprang into action. She couldn't ignore the urgency of the situation, even as her heart pounded in response to Hiroshi's proximity. "Hold him steady," Maya instructed, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Hiroshi's dark eyes met hers, and for a fleeting moment, the chaos around them faded. It was as if they were the only two people in the room, bound by an unspoken understanding that transcended the immediate crisis. "Do you trust me?" Hiroshi asked, his voice low and urgent, yet laced with an intensity that made her breath hitch. Maya nodded, though doubt flickered in her mind. Trusting him was complicated. "Just follow my lead," she replied, her focus shifting back to the injured man. Together, they worked in tandem, a seamless dance of urgency and skill, as she guided Hiroshi through the process of stabilizing his associate. As they moved in sync, a chemistry ignited between them, palpable and electric. Maya was acutely aware of his presence, the way he moved with a quiet confidence, his hands steady as he followed her instructions. She couldn't deny the attraction that simmered beneath the surface, a dangerous allure that both excited and terrified her. After what felt like an eternity, they managed to stabilize the man, but the tension lingered in the air. Hiroshi stepped closer, his expression softening as he looked into her eyes. "You're incredible," he said, admiration evident in his tone. Maya felt a flush spread across her cheeks, a mixture of pride and embarrassment. "I was just doing my job," she replied, trying to downplay the moment, but knowing deep down that it was more than that. "Your job is saving lives," he countered, his voice dropping to a whisper. "That's not something everyone can do." Their eyes locked, and for a heartbeat, the world around them disappeared. Before she could respond, the emergency room buzzed back to life, the reality of the situation crashing down around them. The moment shattered, and Maya took a step back, her heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with the medical crisis. "Thank you for your help," Hiroshi said, his tone shifting back to that cool, composed demeanor she had first encountered. "I owe you." "You don't owe me anything," Maya replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I did what needed to be done." As he turned to leave, she felt a pang of disappointment. She had wanted to hold on to that connection, to explore the uncharted territory that lay between them. But as she watched him walk away, the weight of reality pressed down on her. This was not her world. She was a nurse, dedicated to healing, not entangled in the dangerous web of the Yakuza. Yet, as the days unfolded, their paths continued to cross in the hospital. As she stepped out into the night, the city lights twinkled like stars, illuminating the path ahead. Yet, with every step she took, the thrill of excitement was overshadowed by a lingering fear. What would she encounter at this dinner? Would the allure of Hiroshi's world prove to be too intoxicating, or would it shatter her sense of self? As she arrived at the upscale restaurant, her heart raced with anticipation. The ambiance was luxurious, the air heavy with the scent of exquisite cuisine. Maya felt out of place, but the moment she spotted Hiroshi at the table, that feeling dissipated. He was dressed impeccably, exuding an aura of power and confidence that made her pulse quicken. "Maya," he greeted her with a warm smile as she approached, the tension between them palpable. "I'm glad you came." "Me too," she replied, trying to mask her nerves with a smile. As they settled into the evening, the conversation flowed effortlessly, punctuated by laughter and shared stories. Hiroshi's charisma was magnetic, and Maya found herself drawn deeper into his world. Each word he spoke was laced with an intensity that made her heart race, and she could feel the chemistry building between them. Yet, amidst the flirtation, a shadow lingered, a reminder of the life she had left behind at the hospital. As the night wore on, the realization hit her. She was standing on the precipice of something life-altering, a choice that could change everything. Hiroshi's gaze bore into her, and she could see the weight of his world reflected in his eyes. "You're different from anyone I've ever met," he said, his voice low and sincere. "You have a light that draws me in." Maya felt a rush of warmth at his words, but doubt crept in once more. "But this isn't real," she said, her voice trembling. "You have your life, your world. I'm just a nurse." "You're so much more than that," he insisted, leaning closer, his intensity palpable. "You have a strength that I admire, and I want you to be part of my life, if you'll allow it." As she stared into his eyes, the gravity of his words settled over her. This was the moment that would define her path. And as she weighed her options, she felt the pulse of destiny thrumming in her veins. Could love truly conquer the darkness that surrounded them, or was she stepping into a world from which she could never escape? As the night unfolded, Maya realized she was no longer just a nurse. She was a woman on the brink of a decision that could change the course of her life forever. The allure of Hiroshi's world beckoned, and in that moment she knew she had to choose between the safety of her familiar life and the intoxicating danger of the unknown. With her heart racing and uncertainty swirling around her, Maya took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever came next. Little did she know, the choices she made that night would set into motion a series of events that would forever intertwine their fates, leading her down a path of passion, peril, and a bond that would redefine everything she thought she knew about love. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the bustling city streets, Maya felt an unsettling mix of anticipation and dread. The adrenaline from her earlier encounter with Hiroshi still coursed through her veins, igniting a fire within her that both thrilled and terrified her. Each step she took felt heavier, as if the weight of her decision to engage with this enigmatic man was pulling her deeper into a world she had never wanted to know. The sterile brightness of the hospital was a stark contrast to the dimly lit corners of the city where Hiroshi thrived. She was a nurse, a healer, and her instinct to help others battled fiercely with the fear of the unknown that came with Hiroshi's world. She had always been the steady one, the one who provided care and comfort. Yet here she was, drawn to a man whose life was defined by chaos and danger. The next day at work, the air was thick with the aftermath of her choice. Maya tried to focus on her duties, attending to patients with her usual compassion, but her mind drifted to thoughts of Hiroshi, his intense gaze, the way his presence seemed to command the room, and the vulnerability he had shown her, if only for a fleeting moment. She had never expected to feel such a connection with someone so far removed from her everyday reality. Her routine was interrupted when she crossed paths with Hiroshi again. He stood in the hallway, a striking figure against the clinical backdrop of the hospital, exuding an aura of authority that made her heart race. "Maya," he said, his voice deep and smooth, sending a shiver down her spine. "Can we talk?" The request sent a rush of warmth through her, but she hesitated, glancing around to ensure they were not overheard. "Now?" "I'm on duty," she replied, her tone cautious yet intrigued. "It will only take a moment," he assured her, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. She knew she should refuse, should retreat back into the safety of her professional life, but something pulled her toward him. "All right," she relented, her voice barely above a whisper. He led her to a quiet corner of the hospital, away from prying eyes and ears, and she felt a thrill of excitement mixed with anxiety. The walls around them seemed to close in, amplifying the electricity in the air. "I wanted to thank you for helping my associate the other night," he began, his tone more serious than she anticipated. "You did something not many would have been willing to do." Maya shifted uncomfortably under the weight of his gaze, feeling both flattered and exposed. "I was just doing my job, Hiroshi," she replied, trying to maintain a professional demeanor. "Your job is more than just a title. It's a calling," he countered, stepping a bit closer. "You have a gift, Maya. You care. That's rare in my world." His words hung in the air, rich with subtext. She could feel the tension crackling between them, a magnetic force that defied explanation. "Your world?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. Hiroshi's expression softened slightly, revealing a glimpse of the man behind the tough exterior. "It's a dangerous place, filled with shadows and secrets. I don't want you to get caught up in it." Maya's heart raced at the implication. "Then stay away from me," she blurted out, the words tumbling from her lips before she could stop them. "I have a life here, a career to think about." "I can't," he replied, his voice low and firm. "There's something about you, Maya. I can't shake it." The confession hung between them, heavy with unspoken promise and peril. She felt her resolve wavering, caught in the pull of his charisma. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Just a chance to know you, to understand why you make me feel so alive," he said, his eyes searching hers for understanding. Maya's breath hitched in her throat. The vulnerability in his gaze was disarming, and for a moment she found herself teetering on the edge of a precipice, contemplating a leap into the unknown. "I don't belong in your world, Hiroshi," she stated, though her heart was betraying her with every beat. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet comforting. "You belong wherever you choose to be. I just want you to know that you have a choice." Before she could respond, a commotion erupted in the hallway, pulling them back to the present. A flurry of nurses rushed past, their faces painted with urgency. Maya's instinct kicked in. "I have to go," she said, her heart racing as she turned to leave. "Wait," he called after her, desperation lacing his voice. "We're not done here." As she walked away, Maya felt a mix of exhilaration and dread. Hiroshi's words echoed in her mind, and she knew she was stepping into a world that could shatter her carefully constructed life. Days turned into weeks, and the encounters between them became more frequent, each one intensifying the connection that was blossoming against her better judgment. Hiroshi would drop by the hospital under the guise of visiting patients, and each time, Maya felt the magnetic pull between them. They exchanged stolen glances, shared tentative smiles, and each interaction was a dance of unspoken words. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the city lights began to twinkle, Hiroshi appeared in the hospital cafeteria where Maya was taking a break. He leaned against the counter, his tattooed arms crossed over his chest, exuding an air of confidence that made her heart race. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, a playful glint in his eye. "Shouldn't you be visiting someone?" she replied, her tone teasing but cautious. "I'd rather be here with you," he said, the sincerity in his voice sending her heart into a wild flutter. They engaged in light conversation, but beneath the surface, tension simmered. Maya couldn't deny the chemistry that crackled between them, and as they spoke, she felt the walls she had built around her heart beginning to crumble. She found herself laughing at his jokes, enjoying the way his eyes lit up when he spoke, and feeling the weight of their shared moments pressing upon her. Yet, amidst the laughter, a gnawing fear lingered in the back of her mind. She knew that Hiroshi's world was dangerous, and the more she learned about him, the more she realized how deep the darkness ran. There were whispers in the hospital, rumors about the company he kept, and the trouble that followed him like a shadow. She wanted to believe in the man standing before her, the one who made her feel alive, but the reality of his life loomed large. That evening, as they parted, Maya felt a surge of emotion. "Hiroshi, she started, but he cut her off with a gentle touch on her arm. "Don't say it. Not yet," he urged, his voice low and intense. "I just want to enjoy this moment with you." His words sent a thrill down her spine, but they also filled her with dread. What would happen when the moment passed? When the reality of their lives crashed into the fragile bubble they had created? Over the next few days, as their connection deepened, Maya found herself increasingly torn. She was drawn to Hiroshi's strength and magnetism, yet she remained aware of the peril that surrounded him. There were late-night phone calls, whispered conversations, and long stares that spoke volumes. But with each shared moment, she also felt her heart becoming more entangled in a web of uncertainty. Then came a night that changed everything. Maya was leaving the hospital late, the fluorescent lights flickering as she walked through the empty corridors. The silence was unsettling, and she quickened her pace, eager to escape the sterile environment. As she stepped outside, a chill ran down her spine. The city was alive with noise, but something felt off, like the calm before a storm. "Maya!" a voice called out, and her heart leapt as she turned to see Hiroshi approaching, his expression serious. "You shouldn't be out here alone." "What's wrong?" she asked, scanning the street for any sign of danger. "There's been a situation," he said, urgency in his tone. "You need to come with me." Before she could respond, he took her hand, his grip firm yet protective. The warmth of his touch sent a rush of adrenaline through her. "What's happening?" she pressed, her pulse quickening. "Just trust me," he urged, leading her away from the hospital and into the shadows of the city. "I'll explain everything, but first, we need to get you to safety."
Maya's heart raced as they navigated the dimly lit streets, her mind racing with questions. What had she gotten herself into? She was an ordinary nurse, and now she was running through the night with a man who lived in a world of danger. Finally, they reached a sleek black car parked in a secluded area. Hiroshi opened the door for her, his expression a mix of concern and determination. "Get in," he commanded gently, and she obeyed, her heart pounding in her chest. As they sped through the streets, the city blurred past them, and Maya's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. What's going on? Why are we running? She demanded, her voice shaking. There's a rival gang looking for me. They think I've crossed them, and they won't stop until they get what they want, he explained, his jaw clenched with tension. Why would they target me? She asked, fear creeping into her voice. Because you're with me, he replied, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. They'll use anything against me, even the people I care about. Those words struck her like a bolt of lightning. The realization of how intertwined their lives had become hit her hard. You care about me? She echoed, her heart racing at the implication. I do, more than I should, he admitted, his voice low and earnest. Maya's heart swelled with a mix of fear and hope. She was stepping into a world of shadows, yet the light of their connection flickered brightly in the darkness. But as the stakes rose, so did her doubts. Would love be enough to shield them from the chaos that surrounded them? The car wound through the city streets until they reached a high-rise building that towered above the others. Hiroshi led her inside, the atmosphere thick with tension. He guided her through a lavish lobby, and before she knew it, they were in an elevator ascending to a penthouse suite. Once inside, the luxurious surroundings took her breath away. The skyline stretched out before them, a tapestry of twinkling lights against the night sky. But the beauty of the view was overshadowed by the reality of their situation. Stay here, Hiroshi instructed, his tone firm as he moved toward the window to scan the streets below. Maya watched him, her heart racing as she took in the sight of the man who had turned her world upside down. She wanted to reach out, to bridge the distance between them, but the weight of the situation held her back. Hiroshi, what if they find us? She asked, anxiety creeping into her voice. They won't, he assured her, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of worry. But I can't let you go back to the hospital not knowing what's happening. As the minutes ticked by, Maya felt the gravity of their connection pulling her deeper into his world. She had always been the one in control, the one who knew her path. But now, here she was, entangled in a web of danger and desire, standing on the precipice of uncertainty. I don't want to be a liability for you, she finally said, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. I don't belong in this world. Hiroshi turned to face her, his expression a mixture of frustration and longing. You don't get to decide that for me, Maya. You've already become a part of my life, whether you want to be or not. Then what do we do? She asked, her heart aching with the weight of their situation. We fight, he declared, determination etched on his face. Together. Maya felt a surge of strength at his words, the promise of unity igniting a flicker of hope within her. They were standing on the edge of a new chapter, a chapter filled with uncertainty, but also with the possibility of love. In that moment, amidst the chaos swirling around them, Maya made a choice. She would embrace the danger, embrace the unknown, and allow herself to love Hiroshi, no matter where it led. The world may have wanted to tear them apart, but together they would forge a path through the shadows, daring to believe that love could conquer even the darkest of fates. And as they stood there, united by their fears and desires, Maya knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning of their story. Maya stood at the precipice of a decision that felt monumental, her heart racing as the weight of Hiroshi's words washed over her. They had just faced a threat that could have torn them apart, yet here they were,
standing side by side in the dim light of the abandoned warehouse, the air thick with tension and unspoken emotions. She felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with fear, but more than that, she felt a sense of purpose. Hiroshi had made it clear that they were in this together, and for the first time, she allowed herself to truly believe it. The chaos of their surroundings faded into the background as she turned to face him. Hiroshi's dark gaze was intense, a storm of emotions swirling within those deep brown depths. The tattooed Yakuza boss had always maintained a facade of cool detachment in front of the world, but now, in this moment of vulnerability, she could see the man he truly was, a protector, a survivor, and someone who cared deeply, even if he struggled to show it. "I'm not afraid of you, Hiroshi," she declared, her voice steady despite the tremor of uncertainty that lingered in her heart. "I'm afraid of what I might have to do to protect you, and what it might mean for us." His lips curled into a half smile, a flicker of admiration lighting up his features. "It's not you I worry about, Maya. It's the world we're up against. They will stop at nothing to tear us apart." His words hung in the air like a warning, but Maya felt a wave of determination washing over her. "Then let's fight back, together," she urged, her resolve strengthening with each passing moment. "I'm not going to hide or run away just because it's dangerous. I refuse to let fear dictate my life, especially when it comes to you." Hiroshi's expression shifted, the weight of her words sinking in. He stepped closer, invading her personal space, and she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "You don't understand the risks, Maya," he said, his voice low and intense. "Loving me could cost you everything. I'm not just a man, I'm a target, and now so are you." Their eyes locked, and Maya could see the conflict raging within him. He wanted to protect her, to shield her from the dark shadows of his life, but he also needed her by his side. As she gazed into his eyes, she felt the gravity of their connection, a bond that transcended the danger that surrounded them. "I understand more than you think," she replied, her voice unwavering. "I've seen the kind of world you're a part of, but I'm not going to let it intimidate me. I've fought for my patience, for my dreams, and now I'm fighting for this, us." Hiroshi's expression softened, and for a brief moment, the walls he had built around his heart seemed to crack. "You're unlike anyone I've ever met, Maya," he murmured, reaching out to brush a strand of hair behind her ear. "Most would run at the first sign of danger, but you stand firm." The touch of his fingers sent a shiver down her spine, igniting a fire within her. She could feel the magnetic pull between them growing stronger, drawing her closer to him. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. "I want to stand by you, Hiroshi. I'm not afraid of the darkness because I believe in the light that we can create together," she insisted, her heart pounding in her chest. His gaze turned serious once more as he took a step back, creating a physical distance that felt like a barrier between them. "This isn't just about us, Maya. There are people who would hurt you to get to me. You have no idea what you're asking for." "Then let me in," she pleaded, her voice a whisper laden with emotion. "Show me your world, Hiroshi. Let me understand what you're facing. I can't be afraid of it if I don't know what it is." He hesitated, his brow furrowing as if he were weighing the consequences of her request. The internal struggle was palpable. She could see the fear of what might happen, battling with a desire to let her in. In that moment, Maya realized that she was not just fighting for their love. She was fighting for his trust, for an understanding that could bridge the chasm between their worlds. "All right," he finally said, his voice strained but resolute. "But you must promise me that you will stay safe. I cannot lose you, Maya." "I promise," she vowed, her heart swelling with hope. "Together, we can face whatever comes our way." With a nod, Hiroshi reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. The warmth of his touch sent a rush of electricity through her, igniting a spark of courage within. "Let's go," he said, leading her deeper into the warehouse, where shadows danced along the walls and the air buzzed with an unsettling energy. As they moved through the dimly lit corridors, Maya felt a mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was the world Hiroshi inhabited, a place filled with danger, loyalty, and secrets. Every step brought her closer to the heart of his life, a life she had only glimpsed from the outside. They arrived at a small, secluded room, the walls lined with crates and the faint sound of muffled voices drifting through the air. Hiroshi pushed the door open, revealing a group of men gathered around a table, their faces serious and tense. Instinctively, Maya's grip tightened on Hiroshi's hand as she stepped behind him, feeling a surge of protectiveness wash over her. "Boss," one of the men said, straightening up as they entered. "We've been discussing the situation with the rival gang. They're getting bolder." Hiroshi's expression hardened, the familiar mask of authority sliding back into place. "We can't let them intimidate us. We need to show them that we won't back down." Maya listened intently, absorbing the information. She could see the weight of leadership resting heavily on Hiroshi's shoulders. This was his world, a world where loyalty was paramount and betrayal could come from anyone. "What about the girl?" another man chimed in, glancing at Maya with a mix of curiosity and concern. Hiroshi's jaw tightened, and he turned to face her. "Maya, you shouldn't be involved in this. It's too dangerous." "No," she interjected, feeling a rush of determination. "I want to help. I want to understand what you're going through." The men exchanged wary glances, but Hiroshi's gaze remained locked on hers. "You don't know what you're asking for," he warned, his voice low and intense. "I do know," she insisted, her heart racing. "I want to be a part of this, not just as your nurse, but as your partner, whatever that means." Hiroshi sighed, the conflict evident in his eyes. "Very well, but you must promise me that you will stay close and do exactly as I say. This is not a game." "I promise," she replied, feeling a mix of excitement and fear as she stepped further into his world. As they discussed strategies and potential threats, Maya felt a growing sense of belonging. She was no longer just a nurse in a hospital. She was standing shoulder to shoulder with Hiroshi and his men, facing the challenges that came with being part of his life. Hours passed, and the tension in the room escalated as they mapped out their plan to confront the rival gang. Maya found herself caught up in the urgency of the situation, her heart racing as they delved into the details. She could see the camaraderie among the men, the loyalty they shared, and it only deepened her desire to be a part of it all. Eventually, they reached a consensus, and Hiroshi turned to her, his expression serious. "This is going to be dangerous. Are you sure you want to do this?" Maya nodded firmly, her heart pounding in her chest. "I'm ready." With that, the air crackled with anticipation as they prepared to face the storm together. Maya felt alive, emboldened by the risk they were about to take. Hiroshi's presence beside her was a constant reminder of the bond they shared, a connection that transcended the dangers of their world. As they made their way to the location where they would confront the rival gang, Maya's heart raced with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. She was stepping into a new reality, one where love and danger intertwined, and she was determined to stand by Hiroshi's side no matter what awaited them. When they arrived at the meeting point, a secluded warehouse on the outskirts of the city, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Shadows flickered as they approached, the sound of muffled voices echoing in the distance. Hiroshi turned to Maya, his gaze piercing, and she could see the resolve in his eyes. "Stay close to me," he instructed, his voice low and commanding. "I will," she replied, her heart pounding in her chest. Together, they stepped into the darkness, ready to confront whatever lay ahead, united in their fight against the shadows that threatened to engulf them. The moment they entered the warehouse, the air felt charged with anticipation. The rival gang members were waiting,
their faces obscured by the shadows, but Maya could sense the tension in the air. Hiroshi moved with a confidence that both amazed and terrified her, his presence commanding respect and fear alike. "Maya," he whispered, "if anything goes wrong, I need you to run. Get to safety." "No," she shot back, her voice firm. "I'm not leaving you." Hiroshi's gaze softened momentarily, but the urgency of the situation quickly took over. As they approached the group, a tall figure stepped forward, his expression hard and calculating. "Hiroshi," he drawled, a smirk playing on his lips. "I didn't expect you to bring company." Maya's heart raced as she took in the scene. The tension crackled like electricity, and she could feel the weight of Hiroshi's presence beside her. He stood tall and resolute, a fierce protector ready to defend what was his. "Let her go," he commanded, his voice low and filled with authority. The rival gang leader chuckled, a cruel glint in his eyes. "You think you can just walk in here and dictate terms? You're in over your head, Yakuza." Maya felt a rush of fear, but she steadied her breath, reminding herself of the strength she found in Hiroshi. This was his world, and she was prepared to stand by him, no matter the cost. "I'm not afraid of you," Hiroshi replied, his voice steady. "But if you lay a finger on her, you'll regret it." The air grew heavy with tension as the rival gang members shifted, sizing up the situation. Maya could see the danger brewing, and she held her breath, praying that this confrontation would not escalate into chaos. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the warehouse as one of the gang members lunged at Hiroshi, and, instinctively, Maya stepped forward, her training as a nurse kicking in. "Hiroshi!" she shouted, her heart racing as she reached for him. In a blink, Hiroshi was on the move, his reflexes sharp as he dodged the attack. He fought back with a precision that left Maya in awe, his movements fluid yet powerful. But in the chaos, she felt a surge of fear as she realized the danger surrounding them. "Maya, get back!" Hiroshi shouted, his voice filled with urgency. But she couldn't just stand there. She had to help, to do something. With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she stepped closer to the fray, ready to assist in any way she could. "Hiroshi!" she yelled, her heart pounding in her chest. In that moment, their eyes met, and she could see the fierce determination in his gaze. They were in this together, fighting for their love against the darkness that threatened to consume them. As the fight escalated, Maya felt a rush of adrenaline and fear. She watched in awe as Hiroshi maneuvered through the chaos, his movements a dance of power and grace. But her heart ached as she realized the risks he was taking, the danger he faced for her sake. "Stay close," he shouted again, his voice cutting through the chaos. Maya nodded, her resolve solidifying. She wouldn't back down. She would stand by his side, no matter the cost. Suddenly, a commotion erupted as one of the rival gang members lunged toward her, and without thinking, Maya sprang into action. She grabbed a nearby metal pipe, wielding it with all her strength as she defended herself. "Hiroshi!" she shouted, adrenaline pumping through her veins. With a fierce determination, she swung the pipe, catching the attacker off guard and sending him sprawling to the ground. It was a moment of empowerment, a realization that she was capable of standing her ground, even in the face of danger. Hiroshi glanced at her, a mixture of surprise and admiration crossing his face. "Maya, I told you to stay back." "I'm not leaving you," she retorted, her heart racing as they fought side by side. The chaos surged around them, each blow exchanged echoing with the intensity of their emotions. Maya could feel the connection between them strengthening with every moment they fought together. They were two forces united against a common enemy, and it was exhilarating. As the confrontation reached its peak, Maya and Hiroshi found themselves surrounded, but they refused to back down.
They fought with a fierce determination, their hearts beating in sync as they faced the darkness together. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the rival gang members began to retreat, their bravado crumbling under the weight of Hiroshi's unwavering strength. Maya felt a rush of victory as they stood together, breathless and alive, the danger slowly dissipating. "Are you okay?" Hiroshi asked, concern etched on his face as he took in her bruises and scrapes. "I'm fine," she replied, her heart swelling with pride. "We did it together." Hiroshi's expression softened, and for a moment they simply stood there, their hearts racing as they processed what had just happened. The chaos of the fight faded into the background, leaving only the two of them standing in the glow of their shared victory. "We fought for each other," Maya said, her voice filled with emotion, "and we came out stronger." Hiroshi nodded, his eyes filled with warmth. "You're incredible, Maya. I can't believe what you just did." "I'm just as much a part of this as you are," she replied, a fierce determination rising within her. "I'm not going to let fear control my life, especially when it comes to us." In that moment, they shared a connection that felt unbreakable, a bond forged in the fire of their shared experiences. They had faced the darkness together, and now, as they stood side by side, they felt a sense of hope blossoming in the aftermath. As they made their way out of the warehouse, hand in hand, Maya felt a renewed sense of purpose. She was no longer just a nurse. She was Hiroshi's partner, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would navigate the complexities of their world, embracing the love that had grown amidst the chaos. No matter the dangers they encountered, Maya knew that as long as they had each other, they could face anything. And so, as they stepped into the light of a new dawn, Maya felt a surge of hope within her. Their love was forbidden, fraught with dangers, but it was also a love worth fighting for, a love that could conquer even the darkest of fates. In that moment, surrounded by uncertainty yet filled with unwavering resolve, Maya and Hiroshi made a promise to each other. They would stand together, united against the shadows that threatened to tear them apart. Their story was far from over. It was just beginning, and whatever came next, they would face it side by side.